If you're new to making videos for YouTube, it's important to know that there are techniques and special things that we do when we're putting videos together that help make people enjoy them more. And it's a lot more complex than just cutting a clip. So I'm gonna share some of those techniques with you, and I'm not just gonna tell you, I'm gonna show you how to quickly and easily do it inside of video editing software so you can follow along. And for this, the concepts that I'm gonna be sharing with you can be replicated across different niches of content and in almost all video editing software and apps. But for this video, I'll be using Camtasia because it's extremely easy when it comes to video editing, and they were also cool enough to sponsor this video, so shout out to Team Camtasia. And of course, you can find a link with a discount attached down in the description of this video right now if you're looking for an easy to use video editing and industry-leading screen recording software. So when it comes to making videos for YouTube, you're gonna be using everything that I'm talking about here eventually. But first, we're gonna talk about a few of the cuts that you are going to be extremely likely to use here on YouTube, as well as some other tips for your video editing. But the cuts are the jump cut, the L cut, the J cut, and of course, the good old-fashioned zoom cut. First, we're gonna start with the jump cut because this one is extremely popular on YouTube, and there's a chance that you might even be using this one already. The jump cut is defined as an abrupt transition from one scene to another. On YouTube, it can be used for that specifically, or it can simply be just cutting the space out between words where you're jumping through time. And yes, on YouTube, you can absolutely use this to jump in between scenes, but if you're not in the filmmaking space, or you're not making, film type of content, in that case, you're most likely gonna be using it to cut out silence or space between words. So let me give you an example. This is the difference that jump cuts can make in your YouTube videos. What I'm getting ready to show you is an uncut segment. Here we go. So I was walking down the street and this guy came up to me and he asked me, "Hey, why are you walking down the street?" And I said, "Hey man, I'm looking for some lemonade. Do you know anywhere in this area that I could possibly find some lemonade?" And the guy said, "Yeah, you can actually find some. There's some people selling some lemonade right down the street. If you go down here to the corner, you're gonna find some lemonade down there." That's the uncut version. This next version that you're getting ready to see is what it feels like after you do the jump cuts. So I was walking down the street and this guy came up to me and he asked me, "Hey, why are you walking down the street?" And I said, "Hey man, I'm looking for some lemonade. Do you know anywhere in this area that I could possibly find some lemonade?" And the guy said, "Yeah, you can actually find some. There's some people selling some lemonade right down the street. If you go down here to the corner, you're gonna find some lemonade down there." I'm sure you can clearly see in that example the difference that jump cuts can make when it comes to how your viewers are experiencing your content. And another example I want to give you when it comes to jump cuts is something that I used to do with the way that I made my videos on a regular basis. And basically what I would do is I would hop from one side of the screen to the other. Sometimes I would be in the middle and things like that. It would look like this. I'm going to show you an example of what a jump cut looks like when you do it in kind of an extreme kind of way to where it's a little bit more than just cutting the silence out of your videos. You can see how I'm jumping around the screen, but my audio stays consistent as I'm making these jumps around the screen. I love that video style, by the way, and I'm not really sure why I stopped making videos in that way, because it's fun too. It's almost like I can't stop now that I've started, but we have to because we got to keep this video going, so let's go. So how do you make a jump cut? This is what you do. In your video editing software, all you have to do is find where you stop speaking. In this example, like I mentioned before, I'm using Camtasia where I can show you where it is, but I typically use the audio wave file that you can see right here on the bottom to help me do this faster because I can clearly see where it is that I'm speaking and where it is that I'm not. So I find right where I stop speaking, I cut, and then I move the clips together like you see here. It's really easy to do, and once you get used to doing it on a regular basis, you'll start figuring out where there's enough space of silence in terms of after you finish saying something to where it is that you start something else and so on. But for now, just focus on trying to get those jump cuts worked out to where it feels like a natural flow, but just at a much faster pace. The next cut on our list is the J cut. The J cut is where you overlap the video from the first clip on top of the audio of the second clip. Here's an example of a J cut. The first clip would be something like this, where I'm just sitting here talking like I am right now. And then the second clip is where you just heard my audio coming in, even though there wasn't anything happening at the end of that particular video clip. As a creative, you can use this in a lot of different ways. It's also really good for transitioning in and out of B-roll. But the idea is to where you start hearing the audio of that second clip before the finish of the first clip. And to make this one just a little bit more clear, I'm going to actually move around the screen a little bit so you can see exactly where the cut happens in case you missed it on the last example. So here we go. This right here is what it would be like if I was communicating here in clip number 1. And for clip number 2, you actually hear me coming in and talking before you actually see me on screen like you do right now. But as you can see, it creates just kind of an interesting kind of vibe when you make a cut like that. To do this, all you have to do in your editing software is to start bringing in the audio of the second clip as the first clip is coming to an end, and you'll see an overlap that looks like this. Next, we have the L cut, which is pretty much the J cut in reverse. Let me show you an example. This is clip number 1, where you hear me talking and I'm saying the things that I'm saying here right here during this clip. And the really cool part about this is you can see where the audio was picking up on the first clip as I was walking up to the camera here on this second clip. So you can use that just to create, you know, just kind of like a vibe or just something interesting that goes along with the cut, however you decide to use it. Just like the J cut, the L cut can be used in a ton of creative ways, but let me show you how to do it. Like I mentioned before, it's the same as the J cut, but you're doing it in reverse. So if you're doing it in your editing software, like we're doing in Camtasia right now, your overlap should look something like this. And just like the J cut, this is another one that you can also use to help you transition in and out of B-roll if you use additional footage in your videos. The next cut on our list is the zoom cut. You see us using the zoom cut constantly in my videos if you watch my videos on a regular basis. To use the zoom cut, all you have to think about is this is exactly like the jump cut with the exception of I'm zooming in on the second clip. And then of course, you would zoom back out on the third clip. And then you rinse and repeat that process over and over through your video as you're using that particular cut. To do this, since we're using Camtasia, we're gonna use their animation area here and we zoom in from there on this next clip. So our first clip looks like this, and the second clip after that's applied looks like this. A really cool thing about the zoom cut is depending on the level of zoom that you do, it can also kind of give the feeling like you're using an extra camera, which can also kind of increase the perceived value of what it is that you're doing, where it just makes it seem like there's just more going on than what really is within your recording process. Now, another thing that's really important when it comes to your video editing is editing your audio, because audio is half of the video experience. If your audio sucks, people are not going to be very tolerant of your videos and they're gonna end up leaving your videos. Whereas if your video is okay, but your audio is great, then people are gonna stick around for your video because that's going to increase the perception in terms of the value like we just talked about of your video, because it's going to sound great even though the quality might not be perfect. It's also to note that when it comes to the audio in your videos, your audio includes your voice, it includes anything that you're showing on screen. If you're doing gaming videos or something like that, any audio that's coming from the game, it includes music, it includes sound effects. All of it is important when it comes to how you're editing your videos. And it can also add a lot to the viewer experience. In fact, in most cases, you do not want to use the audio directly out of the camera. You do want to do some post-processing to it in order to make it sound fuller, in order to make it sound more rich, and even to remove some of that background fuzzy noise type of stuff that you get when you're recording videos. You can remove that stuff and it'll make your videos seem like they're better quality. And really, they will be better quality because you'll be putting in this extra effort to make them better for the people that are going to be experiencing your content. But regardless of what software or apps that you're using, it's really important to make sure that you are taking this extra step because it can really make a big difference. Another thing that's really important when it comes to your editing process is recording with the edits in mind. Basically recording knowing that you're going to be editing the footage and recording it in a way that's going to make the edit a lot easier on you. Click here to see how I record my videos in a way that makes it easy for us to edit them quickly. You can click into that now, and if you haven't yet,